Welcome to the Realities of College Recruiting podcast, where our team of former college coaches, players, and MLB scouts tackle the most critical college recruiting topics. With guests including college coaches, MLB pro scouts, and industry insiders, we will empower you with the tips and strategies needed to gain an advantage in your college recruiting process. The SportsForce podcast is powered by our partner, 5-Tool Baseball. Okay, let's start the show. What were some of, and what do you see as some of the common, mistakes that players are making, and then we'll jump into kind of what parents are making?
Probably right now, making a decision way too quick. You make that early decision, and everybody's excited about it, and then things change. Things change. Coaching staffs are changing now quickly. And the need may change for what a program may have. Unfortunately, they may find somebody else they want more during the 2 years that you're waiting to show up on campus. There may be somebody else up here that college decides they want more. So I think the early decision making it's way too early now. And I think even the college coaches agree with that too. They're having to commit to kids because everyone else is out there pressuring those kids to make decisions. So you're going to follow what the crowd's doing, and you want to get a commitment, but it may not even be the right fit for the college at that time. So to me, that's the biggest mistake that's being made right now, is way too early of a decision without really deciphering through what is the best choice and the best fit. So parents need to be very realistic and really kind of how many people at that level are really recruiting you. Is there 10, 12, 15 Division I schools really knocking on your door and serious about it? Or is it maybe the one or two? If there's none, then obviously you need to probably reevaluate. If you think your son's a Division I player and there's not a Division I school calling you or contacting you, then you probably need to reevaluate what your perspective is of your son too.
What were some of the, the challenges that you had, on trying to, see a bunch of the players, have your staff kind of evaluate players, and really get the right kids into your program?
I think the biggest challenge is more kids that you just can't get your eyes on. There's tournaments and local places you're trying to see, and then you start going national and regional, and there's just more kids than what you're able to go see as a coach, and you're always fearful that you're missing somebody. And particularly local, you never want to miss anybody local or in your region. And so you're really busting your tail trying to get everywhere that you can be, but it's impossible. You just cannot see everybody that's out there on a list, and you miss a lot of kids.
Give us an idea. Let's say you were at K-State and you were recruiting, let's say the class of sophomores. About how many players might you guys as a program, have a name of and kind of be following, from position players to pitchers, just in general, kind of an overall view of not how many players you maybe are having phone calls with yet, but just names of guys that you're tracking and you're hoping to see maybe over the summer?
Sure. I think it could almost be a 10 per position, to be honest with you. If you're looking for a catcher, you may have 10 catchers that you're corresponding with through, whether email or whatever it might be, that you can do that with. So you're talking, if it's 10 catchers and, it might be 15 shortstops. And if you're looking for an outfielder, you're probably talking about 10 or 12 there. So you start adding that up. And again, depending on what your list is going to be, but you're always going to recruit from that earliest stage because you don't know what your roster is going to do that far out. You're probably recruiting almost every position because you may not think you need a first baseman, and then 18 months later you need a first baseman. So you have everybody on your list. So if you have anywhere from 8 to 12 to 15 kids per position, you do the math. It's a lot of kids.
Right now, looking at a sophomore or a junior, what are you looking for, in your evaluation of that player?
Well, first of all, you look at number one, what's his talent and skill level at that time? How skilled is he? I mean, is he already a 6'7" runner as a sophomore? Is he already throwing 87, 88 as a sophomore? I mean, those kids make it a little bit easier to project. Is he hitting the ball 400 feet with power? What are his actions in the infield? And it's those are things you look at right now. But then on the other hand, is he 6'3" and 170 pounds and he's throwing 82, 83, but the motion's clean and you also look you really dive deep when you start looking at, well, so what's the parental background or family background? What type of athletes were they? There's a lot of things you start diving into that allow you to make a decision on a young man, even though he may not talent level be there yet. There's other things that you kind of project out and try to investigate to make your decision on whether or not you think he's going to be at a Division I level or Division II or whatever level. There's things you dive into and research.
I think one of the important things that you guys talked about last night was finding the right fit, right? If you are, if you throw 75, 80 miles an hour and have aspirations to play Division I baseball, you're probably not going to make it. And I think understanding that going into the process is really important in understanding what your potential options would be moving forward. The point that I brought up last night that I think is equally important in today's day and age is when you are interviewing schools that you think you have potential to play at, one of the first questions out of your mouth should be, what is your development philosophy? I train using weighted balls. Would you allow me to continue to train in that method, or do you not believe in that? Because we've had athletes that have gone on to play at schools because they thought it was a great fit, and then when they get there, they start doing their plyo care work or their long toss work or their bands, and all of a sudden the coach comes over and goes, we don't do that here. And next thing you know, that player's arm is deconditioned. He's not feeling right. He feels like he's being attacked at every turn because he's not comfortable in the situation he's in. And ultimately, they end up transferring out and in worst case scenarios get hurt. And so you don't want to have that. Obviously, you want to go somewhere and stay there, for the duration of your career, whether you come out as a junior or stay all 4 years as a senior. But I think it's really, really important to understand that whatever school you go to, you need to ask what the development model is and if that's going to fit who you are as a player. Based off the metrics, you can tell a kid you are, 3, 4, 5 standard deviations above major league average, so that I can project you out. You throw 70 now with 30 Bauer units on your fastball, meaning you're 6 standard deviations above major league average. If you continue to grow and get strong and motivate yourself, if we can get you to 90, we can get you to any school that you want to go to, or we can get you drafted just based on those numbers alone.
But getting back into, the recruiting game, parents, players are hearing, oh, you need to get your velocity to this. You need to go to this velocity camp. You need to do this. You need to do this. What would you say are some of the big kind of buyer beware? Be concerned about just being velocity only focused and short-term focused.
Right. So I mean, the game is now a power game, right? Whether you're talking about launch angle, exit velocity, spin rate, throwing velocity, whether that's across the diamond from the outfield to second base or from the pitcher's mound to home plate, it's a power game. However, when you talk about velocity development, there's some things that need to be keenly aware of. A lot of what you see on the internet is the fun stuff, right? That's the pull downs where you get to watch guys like Trevor Bauer pull down at 116 miles an hour and so-and-so pull down at over 100 miles an hour. You might see high school kids do it. You might even see youth athletes doing it. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But what you don't see in those videos is the 4 to 6, sometimes 8 to 10 weeks of work that was done prior to that allowed their bodies to absorb that kind of a workload to have success. So if any velocity program out there, first and foremost, makes guarantees, you need to turn around and run immediately, because there's no guarantees in velocity development. I cannot sit here with an honest face and say, so-and-so is going to gain X miles an hour if you do our program, because I can't guarantee your work ethic. I can't guarantee the effort that you're going to be putting into it. And I don't know anything about you outside of your physical stature, right? You might have mechanical flaws. You might have movement flaws. You might have, skeletal musculature stuff that I don't see on the surface. that is going to hinder that growth and that development. It's not necessarily that the kids are the ones. I think it's more the parents and the coaches that are abusing the kids for the sake of, winning a trophy or a medal that a kid is not ever going to remember, right? The parent's going to remember it because they're emotionally and monetarily invested in it, right? And you're professionalizing your youth athlete. Youth sports is a $15 billion a year industry. Everybody wants a piece of that pie. And so we've taken a generation of players and said, we want to treat you just like I'm going to treat a 23, 24, 25-year-old at the big league level, but we're going to play these uber competitive tournaments where you're going to throw 80 pitches back-to-back days, with walkout songs and fancy uniforms and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, you're burning out your athlete. You're injuring them or wearing them down to the point where as they get older, they're going to break a lot sooner than they would have had you just let them be a normal kid.
Along with that, I would say the point is when you're thinking about the recruiting process, whether, your son's 13, 14 years old and starting to show early signs of a college prospect, or they're 16, 17 and approaching their senior year, it's easy to sign up and kind of go to a bunch of different tournaments and showcases and camps. However, that can sometimes not be the right use of your family's money and time and energy for your son's development. There is, I think, too much emphasis right now on playing games and showcasing and not enough emphasis on the training and development, the athletic movement, the things that actually college coaches want to see when you do showcase. So as a general philosophy, as an organization, we would say, depending on where the player is, having a strategic approach to when it's time to showcase, but making the time for the training and development so that you're really preparing yourself to get recruited by as many quality programs as possible, but also you're taking care of your health. And this is not about just getting recruited. This is about having the best potential career as a baseball player and as a student athlete as you possibly can. So thinking more long-term and surrounding yourself with coaches and mentors that are thinking more long-term is critical.
The goal should not be to get seen. The goal should be to have something worth being seen, right? And if that means that you have to pump the brakes a little bit on showcasing so that you can spend some time developing, so that when you do go to that showcase, now you've got a tool that a coach wants to see or a professional team wants to see, then that's going to be more worth your time, your effort, and your money than if you were just to go.
We get so caught up in the recognition of where the kid's going and who's recruiting him. We lose sight of the fact that I think the most important goal is to allow these kids to play one more year. Because I'm a firm believer that if they stay around the game just one more year, wherever it be, whether it be at from JV to varsity high school baseball, or from varsity high school baseball to junior college or Division I or pro ball, just staying around the game one more year will give these young men an opportunity to be more successful in life. What you need to be focused on is what this game teaches from a life lesson standpoint, that's going to give your young man an opportunity to be more successful in life. Because really, not that many of us are going to get to play it long enough to make a living out of it. And I hope they do. But they're going to learn these life skills that they can take with them the rest of their lives to help them be more successful.
Sure. And you think about, sometimes that college decision of chasing the big name, school, there's some pitfalls that are out there that aren't often talked about, with, sometimes schools over recruiting or bringing in, a certain amount of players, and then some go home, during the December of the freshman year, or maybe they went in with the wrong expectations of what the opportunity was.
There's just so many opportunities out there for kids. And if you really look at it, if you look around the country, on average, there's 4 to 5 kids every year that leave Division I schools at almost every school. Mm-hmm. And, there's a variety of reasons, wrong fit, was homesick, missed mom, missed the girlfriend, wasn't good enough,
Coach didn't like him, didn't like the coach. There's a variety of reasons. I just think in today's society, in today's recruiting world, we're asking 15, 16-year-old kids to make a decision on where you want to spend 4 years of your life 3 years from now. And I just think that's a really, really difficult proposition, for a young man that's 15 or 16 years old. So I think it's really important that during this selection process, you take that into account that, hey, where's an opportunity where my young man really has a chance to go and compete early and get a chance to play. Right, wrong, or indifferent, the parent is going to be a reflection on their child, regardless of the child's behavior or the young man's actions. Human nature alone is going to relate you to an individual if you're, their son, if they behave in a certain way. That's why it's even more important that I think you, sit down and enjoy watching them play. And, if a college coach is in the stands and, he sees a father that can't deal with the adversity going on in the field, he can relate that to, well, man, maybe the kid's not going to be able to deal with adversity. And this is a game about dealing with adversity. So, just sit down and enjoy watching them play, because I'm just telling you, it's over in a flash. And when it's over, it ends sudden.
Thanks for being part of the Realities of College Recruiting podcast and our partner 5-Tool Baseball. You can easily subscribe on iTunes and check us out online at SportsForce Baseball for every past episode of our podcast. If you want to ask questions, share insights, and recommend future guests, hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at SportsForceBB and Facebook under SportsForce Baseball. Be sure to join us on our next episode of the Realities of College Recruiting podcast. And remember, your college decision isn't a 4-year one, it's a 40-year one.